Captain James Holland stood in the gleaming throne room of the Vraxian Imperial Palace, his worn boots tracking mud across marble floors that had witnessed 1,000 years of galactic history. The translator implant behind his ear buzzed softly as the towering figure before him rose from her crystalline seat. Queen Riva was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Her azure skin seemed to glow with an inner light, and the crown of bioluminescent horns that curved from her temples pulsed with the rhythm of her heartbeat. She stood nearly 8 feet tall, her powerful frame wrapped in ceremonial armor that had been forged from the cores of dead stars. "You cannot mean this," she said, her voice resonating through the chamber like distant thunder. James shifted uncomfortably, his hand instinctively moving to the data pad at his belt. The orders were clear. Earth's diplomatic mission to Vraxia had concluded. The treaty was signed. The technology exchange complete. It was time to go home. "Your Majesty, my presence here was always temporary. The mission parameters were established before I even arrived. 6 months. That's what both our governments agreed to." The Queen descended the steps of her throne with predatory grace. Her guards, massive warriors in black armor, tensed but held their positions. They knew better than to interfere when their queen was in such a state. "Parameters," Riva repeated, the word dripping with contempt. "You speak of parameters and agreements as if the last 6 months meant nothing. As if we meant nothing." James felt heat rise to his face. The relationship between them had been unexpected, to say the least. He had arrived on Vraxia as humanity's representative, prepared for formal dinners and treaty negotiations. He had not been prepared for the Queen herself. Their first meeting had been hostile. Riva had made it abundantly clear that she viewed humans as primitive upstarts, barely worthy of her empire's attention. Earth's technology was centuries behind the Vraxian standard. Their military was laughable. Their cultural achievements, in her words, were adequate at best. But James had refused to be intimidated. He had stood before her throne and delivered a speech about human resilience that had somehow pierced her armor of superiority. He had told her about humanity's climb from stone tools to starships, about art created in caves and symphonies composed in times of war, about the stubborn refusal to give up that defined his species. Something had shifted in her eyes that day. Curiosity, perhaps, or recognition of a kindred spirit. The formal negotiations had continued, but they had been joined by private conversations. Long walks through the palace gardens, discussions that stretched into the night about philosophy, history, the nature of power and responsibility. Riva had shown him the weight of her crown, the loneliness of absolute authority, the burden of being the last of her bloodline. And somewhere in those stolen moments, the impossible had happened. "It meant everything," James said quietly. "You know it did. Then stay. I can't. My duty." "Duty?" Riva's voice cracked like a whip. "Do not speak to me of duty, human. I know more of duty than you could possibly comprehend. I have sacrificed everything for my people. My youth, my freedom, my very identity. I became what they needed me to be. And in you, I finally found something that was mine. Something I chose for myself." James took a step forward, then stopped. The distance between them seemed vast despite the few feet of polished floor. "Riva, please. Try to understand. Earth needs me. My crew needs me. I have responsibilities back home. People depending on me. And what of your responsibilities here?" The Queen's hands clenched at her sides. "What of what you leave behind?" "We discussed this," James said, struggling to keep his voice steady. "We both knew this day would come. You're a queen. I'm a captain. Our worlds are light years apart. The treaty allows for continued communication, diplomatic visits. I am pregnant." The words hit James like a physical blow. For a moment, the throne room seemed to tilt around him. His translator implant buzzed in confusion, as if uncertain it had correctly processed the statement. What? Riva's expression was a mixture of defiance and vulnerability he had never seen before. I carry your child, James Holland. A hybrid. Something that should be impossible, according to every law of biology and science we know. Yet here we are. James's mind reeled. The Vraxians and humans were barely compatible on a genetic level. The medical officers had assured him that cross-species conception was impossible. The biological differences were too vast. It couldn't happen. And yet, looking at Riva's face, he knew she was telling the truth. How? He managed. My personal physicians confirmed it yesterday. They are baffled. Terrified even. A queen bearing a hybrid child. It has never happened in the history of the Empire. The political ramifications alone could destabilize everything. She moved closer, and now James could see the fear beneath her royal bearing. This was not just a queen speaking. This was a woman facing an impossible situation. Do you understand what this means? Riva continued. The noble houses will see this as weakness. My enemies will call for my abdication. There will be those who demand the pregnancy be terminated, who will claim the child is an abomination. And they may be right. We have no idea what a human Vraxian hybrid will even be. If it will be viable. If it will be healthy. James felt his carefully constructed wall of duty crumbling. When did you find out? The day before you filed your departure request. Why didn't you tell me immediately? Riva's laugh was bitter. And say what? Do not leave me, human, for I am with child. I am a queen, James. I do not beg. I do not trap. I wanted to see if you would stay for me. For us. Without the complication of an heir no one asked for. An heir, James repeated, the reality of it settling over him like a heavy cloak. Your heir. A child who would be in line for the throne of the Vraxian Empire. A child who would be half human, Riva corrected. A walking bridge between our species. Or a target for those who fear change. James ran a hand through his hair, his carefully prepared speech about duty and honor evaporating. How could he leave now? How could he abandon Reva to face this alone? But how could he stay? His ship was in orbit. His crew was waiting. Earth expected his return. What do you want from me? He asked. I want you to choose, Riva said, and for the first time, he heard her voice break. Not because of duty or treaty or political expedience. I want you to choose what you want. Do you want this child? Do you want me? Or were the last 6 months merely a pleasant diversion before you return to your real life? James looked at her, really looked at her. The proud tilt of her head, the slight tremor in her hands, the way her bioluminescent markings flickered with emotion. She was laying herself bare before him in a way that must have cost her everything. He thought of Earth, of the small apartment waiting for him in London, of the promotion that had been hinted at, of the normal life he had always planned to return to. Then he thought of late nights in the palace library, Riva reading poetry from her world while he shared passages from human literature. He thought of her rare laughter, bright as starlight. He thought of the way she had held him during the political crisis 3 months ago, her strength becoming his anchor dot. He thought of a child, their child, a being that represented something entirely new in the galaxy. If I stay, James said slowly, I can't do it as a consort or a pet. I would need a real role, a purpose. I'm a soldier, Riva, an explorer. I need to contribute. Hope flared in Riva's eyes. We are about to begin the frontier expansion. New worlds to explore and catalog. New civilizations to contact. We need someone who understands both Vraxian power and human perspective. Someone who can bridge the gap between conquest and cooperation. You had this planned. I had hoped, she corrected. There is a difference. James took a deep breath. He was about to make a decision that would change everything. His career, his life, the very trajectory of human-Vraxian relations. He pulled out his datapad and, with steady fingers, composed a message to his ship. To Earth, a request for extended assignment. A recommendation that his second officer take command of the mission home. An explanation that would send shockwaves through the diplomatic corps. I'll need to talk to my crew, he said. Explain the situation. Some of them won't understand. And you? Riva asked. Do you understand? James looked down at the datapad, at the message that would sever his old life and commit him to an unknown future. Then he looked up at the alien queen who carried his impossible child. I understand that humanity's greatest strength has always been adaptation, he said. We survive because we embrace the impossible. We thrive because we refuse to be limited by what should or shouldn't be. He pressed send. I also understand, he continued, closing the distance between them, that I would be a fool to walk away from the most extraordinary thing that has ever happened to me. Riva's arms came around him with desperate strength. You are staying. I'm staying. The nobles will hate you. Let them. The hybrid may not survive. Then we face that. Together. You are giving up everything you knew. James pulled back enough to look into her eyes. No, I'm gaining everything I never knew I needed. The queen of the Vraxian Empire, ruler of 1,000 worlds, allowed herself to cry. And Captain James, Holland of Earth, held her while the future they had accidentally created grew between them. Outside, the stars turned in their ancient dance. Somewhere, Earth waited. But